I'm finally back. It's been forever since I've last uploaded, but I've been brought back to the dead with the power of a good teaser. Or well, it's more a teaser or more like a weird announcement. Recently, the main ReZero Twitter, and maybe other places as well, which I'm not too sure of, announced or more or less dropped this GIF, and it had people going crazy. No one knew what it meant, and so there was tons of theories around what it could be. So that's what this video is about, is what it ended up being, and potential theories on what it could be, because I don't think it's all over. Essentially, it got released and announced to be an announcement for more announcements, which was a bit of a boring outcome from it. But even then, I don't think all hope is lost. When it got announced, it was really shown to us that there are 10 announcements, with the first announcement being that of a live stream. But also we could probably end up learning what the other events are, or at least getting a hint on the next immediate event. Now, one of the major theories around the original, well, I'm going to call it like teaser, was that it was potentially for an if story. Now, if you don't know what they are, if stories are basically stories written by the author, and they cover what ifs. So if this happened, if that happened, and each represents a sin for what the main character would have fell for. And at least in Japanese Twitter, or at least in Japanese spaces on ReZero Twitter, I saw a discussion for a potential pride if. And so not only in the Japanese speaking spaces they spoke about this, other people spoke about it too, and I actually think it's a fairly likely theory. There's two main reasons behind this. First is the teaser. When you look at the teaser, you can see how distorted it looks, and when we freeze it on this frame, you can see silhouettes of two people. Now, some people have a hard time seeing that, so I have like blurred it and shifted the colors a little, and you can see it a lot more clearly. And if you want a crappy red outline around it, here's that also. But another main thing that really fed into the theory that it could be a if story adaptation, what this teaser was hinting to, was that it was dropping on Reinhard van der Stree's birthday. Now, Reinhard van der Stree is a character in ReZero, and he's actually very prominent in most of the if stories, but in one in particular, which is called the Pride If. That's mainly because in that he's really put in a position where he is Subaru's rival in that, or the antagonist to Subaru. And that really had me thinking before this announcement that there were 10 other announcements dropped, that was gonna be what it was. I generally thought it's gonna be a Pride If anime adaptation into a side story spin-off, as you would call it. Of course, we eventually learned it wasn't that, but hope isn't lost, because we have 10 announcements ahead of us anyway. Another idea people had, which was just as valid, was the EX novels. Now, in case you don't know what those are, either EX novels are a part of the main timeline, the actual story, and they're side stories. And one of the ideas was, because it's on Reinhardt's birthday, the EX novels based around his grandfather, Wilhelm, who's an amazing character by the way, were going to be adapted. And that actually was kind of likely too, because that's been adapted into a manga form. But in the end, we ended up being disappointed. But hope isn't lost yet. Now, one of the main things that keeps me hopeful that one of these 10 announcements will be for if story adaptation, or even an EX adaptation, or maybe a side story adaptation. It's that in this original teaser, as you can see here, it says animation. Now, in my opinion, they wouldn't say animation for nothing, and so I actually think that means something. Not only that, the original teaser hasn't really been explained to us. We still don't know what this static is meant to mean, and it might be something small. I might just be digging too deep into it, but we still haven't had that explained to us. But one of the major good things, in my opinion, about if there is a side story content EX novels, if novels or whatever, adapted into animated content, is that it probably won't be White Fox. And I know it sounds a bit bad to say that's a good thing, but we will finally get to see in this case ReZero animated by someone else, and we know it wouldn't be made by White Fox because they're too busy with season 4. And it also kind of makes sense for Kadokawa to diversify ReZero, and so I think it makes sense that if it was adapted, it would be made by a different animation studio. I think that'd be amazing in some ways, because you'd see many famous studios potentially adapt a ReZero side content, which would be an interesting way to look at it. But aside from all the theories and everything like that, we also had an official YouTube drop, and this is kind of good because it'd be very good to push ReZero out to a wider audience. And also, so far they started uploading the OPs, EDs, everything like that on there, and it's also where the live stream will be. But we also get a ReZero website for the 10th anniversary, which is what all of these events are, and on it there's a hint in what the illustrator for the series said here, where he essentially mentions from the 4th season onwards there will be a series of scenes that will be difficult to animate. That means potentially, unless I'm reading too deep into it, there are going to be more than the 4th season, and that's kind of confirmed. And so we also have that coming out of this. Now, with all of this out of the way, and I did kind of rapid fire through them, and it's a very short, chaotic video, that's about everything I have to talk about in this video. But tell me what you think about the potentials for something being adapted into visual content, basically into an animation. And also, yeah, I'm back for good. You'll probably see another video from this probably a week later. I'm going to try and hit a 1 a week video kind of schedule. And yeah, see you next time.